The stars were silent. They always had been. For thousands of years, humanity had searched the sky, hoping to find a voice among the endless lights. But when the signal finally came, it was not meant for human ears. It started as a faint whisper, a broken transmission caught by an old deep space listening post on the far side of the moon. The message was strange, sharp, and fractured, like pieces of a dream. At first, the scientists thought it was nothing. Cosmic noise, maybe a dying star. But then the sound formed patterns, and the patterns turned into a language. The decoding took days. Each fragment revealed something frightening. It was not a greeting. It was not an invitation. It was a warning. They are coming. Do not answer. Do not look for us. Do not. The rest was static. No one knew who they were. No one knew who had sent the warning. The only thing certain was this: whoever sent the message was desperate, and whoever they feared was powerful enough to silence them. Earth's governments tried to hide it, locking the recording away in digital vaults. But secrets have a way of leaking. A junior technician in the lunar array, unable to bear the weight of what he had heard, copied a fragment and sent it to a friend. From there, it spread, quietly at first, then like wildfire, until the entire world knew. The question was no longer if humans had been noticed. It was by who. In the control room of the lunar listening post, Dr. Celine Ward stared at the waveform of the signal, replaying it for what felt like the 100th time. She was not supposed to be here. The station was under lockdown now, military personnel guarding every door. But as chief linguist, she had been granted a few more hours before the data would be taken from her forever. Her eyes burned from lack of sleep. Each time she heard the distorted words, she felt the same chill crawl up her spine. The voice that spoke, it was not human. And yet, there was fear in it. Fear so sharp it cut through the static. She adjusted the playback again, slowing it to 1/4 speed. The last fragment, the one that always ended in a burst of static, played softer now, the distortion almost gone. Do not answer. Do not look for us. Do not let them know. You heard. Celine froze. That part had never been clear before. Her hand trembled over the console. The meaning was obvious now. The warning wasn't just about the unknown enemy. It was about humans themselves. The message carried a deadly implication. Listening might have been enough to doom them. Far below, on Earth, panic was building. Governments gave false assurances on the news. Scientists argued on live broadcasts. Some claimed the signal was a hoax. Others insisted it was proof humanity was no longer alone. Conspiracy theorists flooded social media with wild claims of ancient aliens and secret treaties. But in the quiet corners of power, decisions were being made. Some leaders argued to shut everything down, to destroy the listening arrays and pretend nothing happened. Others believed the opposite. If something dangerous was coming, Earth had to prepare. In the shadows, militaries began to mobilize. Night fell over the planet, and yet many did not sleep. Across cities, people gazed at the sky, imagining unseen eyes staring back. Some prayed. Some planned. Some simply waited for a sign of what came next. And then, another signal came. It was faint, even weaker than the first, but different, structured, deliberate, almost like a countdown. Celine received it first, her console lighting up in a soft blue glow. Her breath caught as she leaned closer, hands hovering above the controls. The sound was rhythmic. Slow at first. Then faster still. Her stomach twisted. It wasn't words this time. It was numbers. A sequence. Counting down. She looked at the clock. The transmission had started at midnight Universal Time. The countdown would end in 6 days. Celine closed her eyes, hearing the faint, mechanical pulse echo in her ears. Somewhere out there, far beyond human reach, something was moving. And now it was coming closer. Humanity had heard a message it was never meant to hear. But it wasn't the first warning that would matter. It was the last. The countdown had started. 6 days. The world did not sleep. Scientists, soldiers, and leaders worked behind closed doors, their whispers drowned by the sound of fear spreading across the earth. The first message had been a warning. But the second was something worse. It was a promise. Dr. Celine Ward stared at the console in the lunar listening post, her mind racing. She had replayed the new signal over and over, hoping for hidden meaning. But no matter how many times she analyzed it, the truth stayed the same. The numbers were going down. "Has anyone else received it?" she asked quietly, looking toward Colonel Reeves, the military commander assigned to secure the station. Reeves, a man of stone features and colder eyes, nodded once. "All listening posts. Same frequency. Same pattern. They want us to know." Celine swallowed hard. "They want us to know." Far below, in a meeting room buried beneath the Pentagon, the heads of Earth's largest nations gathered through encrypted channels. They spoke little. Each of them understood the same thing. Whatever was coming, whoever was coming, was already on its way. "Can we trace the origin?" a general asked. "No," replied a technician, her voice shaking. "It's everywhere. Like it's bouncing across the stars. It's not just coming from one point." The room fell silent. Celine didn't know what was worse, the idea that something alien was approaching, or that it was already close enough to hide. Meanwhile, outside the halls of power, rumors grew wild. Some claimed the countdown was to an invasion. Others said it marked the return of an ancient civilization. A few believed the signal was not a warning at all, but an invitation. One thing united them all: fear. By the second day, the skies above Earth no longer felt empty. Radar screens lit up with false alarms. Amateur astronomers reported strange movements in the dark. Shadows across the moon were analyzed for signs of alien craft. Every flicker of light became a possible threat. And still, the countdown ticked lower. Celine worked tirelessly, searching for anything that might explain why the message had been sent. She studied the original transmission again, now certain there were layers of meaning she had missed. The voice, though broken by static, carried emotion. Fear. Urgency. Regret. But also, hope. Buried deep in the signal, she found a pattern that wasn't part of the warning. A faint harmonic, like a whisper behind the words. It was not random. It was too precise. When she isolated it, a faint set of coordinates appeared. Not in space. But closer. Much closer. Earth. The location pointed to a region of the Pacific Ocean, thousands of meters below the waves. Celine's breath caught. "They didn't just warn us," she whispered. "They left something here." She turned to Colonel Reeves. "We need a deep-sea team. Now." Reeves hesitated. Then he nodded. Within hours, a small submarine was dispatched under cover of night. Its destination, a trench so deep that human eyes had barely seen it. As the craft descended into the crushing dark, its lights revealed a strange metallic glint far below, something not shaped by nature. "Command, we have contact," the pilot reported, his voice trembling. The object was massive, half buried in silt, covered with markings that pulsed faintly like breathing light. And then, it moved. A low vibration rolled through the ocean, shaking the submarine's instruments. A panel inside the craft flickered with a sudden burst of alien script, then went dark. On the moon, Celine watched the telemetry vanish from her screen. The submarine's signal had been cut. No words. No image. Just static. Hours passed. No response came. The crew was gone. And then, the countdown changed. Not in numbers. In sound. The rhythmic pulse now carried a deeper tone, like a heartbeat. And faintly, beneath the pattern, came something new, almost like a voice. But this voice was not warning. It was calling. Celine leaned close, straining to hear. And then, softly, almost like a whisper meant only for her. "We see you." The message repeated. Over and over. Until the sound filled the room like a cold wind. Celine stepped back, her heart pounding. It was no longer a countdown to arrival. It was a countdown to contact. The countdown had reached 4 days. The world was changing. Cities were quieter at night. Skies were no longer trusted. Every government had entered silent coordination, each knowing that whatever was approaching could not be stopped by one nation alone. On the moon, Dr. Celine Ward had not slept. The words from the signal echoed in her mind, "We see you." It had been repeated again and again for hours until finally, without warning, the voice stopped. But the silence was worse. Colonel Reeves stood behind her, arms folded, his gaze locked on the slowly ticking numbers. "If they wanted to scare us," he muttered, "it's working." Celine didn't answer. She was busy dissecting the fragments of the first message again, searching for any detail she might have missed. Whoever sent it hadn't just been afraid, they'd been running. Running from them. Meanwhile, in the depths of the Pacific, a second submarine team had been deployed, this time with heavier equipment, drones, and military escorts. The first team had vanished without a trace, but the coordinates left no doubt. Something alien rested on the ocean floor. As the new team descended, cameras streamed live footage back to a classified command center in Virginia. The object was still there. Massive, silver-black, its surface carved with glowing lines that seemed to move like liquid light. "It's waking up," one of the pilots whispered, as sensors began to spike. A deep vibration rumbled through the water. Lights flickered inside the submarine. The ocean around the object shimmered, warping like heat rising off pavement. Then, for a fraction of a second, the object projected something. A burst of symbols, bright as fire, across the control panels of the sub. But before anyone could record them fully, the feed went black. Static again. In the command center, military leaders argued whether to send a third team. Some claimed the object was a weapon. Others believed it was a warning beacon. But one fact silenced the room. It was not placed there by whoever was coming. It was placed there for humanity. Celine believed this. She stood in front of the generals and scientists, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "They were here," she said. "Not the ones chasing. The ones running. They left this for us, because they knew one day we would hear their warning." "And you think it's a defense?" a general asked. Celine hesitated. "I don't know. But it's not hostile. Not yet. It's waiting for something. Maybe, for us to understand." The room was quiet for a long time. Then, finally, Colonel Reeves spoke. "Then we'd better understand fast." Across Earth, military forces began mobilizing in secret. Orbital satellites were repositioned. Missile silos were placed on standby. Experimental aircraft, prototypes hidden from the public, were rolled out of hangars for the first time. Humanity had no idea what form the threat would take. But for the first time in history, every army on Earth prepared for the same enemy. And yet, deep down, the generals knew. If whatever was coming had crossed the stars, no weapon on Earth would be enough. That night, Celine sat alone in the lunar listening post, staring at the silent console. She thought of the voice that had whispered, "We see you." She wondered what kind of mind had spoken those words. Cold. Curious. Hungry. Her eyes drifted to the stars. They looked beautiful, calm, eternal, but she no longer trusted them. Somewhere out there, something was moving closer. At 3:17 a.m., the console came alive. Not with sound. With light. A burst of golden symbols flooded the screen, forming intricate patterns that shifted and pulsed like a living thing. Celine recognized fragments of the same markings found on the ocean object. She quickly began translating, cross-referencing the patterns against everything she had decoded from the first message. Minutes turned to hours. The translation was incomplete, fragmented. But a phrase began to emerge. "It is not them. It is not us. It is older." Celine stared at the words, her blood running cold. Whoever had left the warning wasn't just running from something. They were running from something ancient. Something that had been here before. The symbols shifted again, this time forming a single, final line before vanishing. Look to the dark between the stars. That is where they wait. Celine leaned back, her pulse racing. She didn't know what scared her more, the message or the fact that it was not sent to warn them anymore. It was sent to prepare them. The countdown now showed 3 days. 3 days. The countdown pulsed like a heartbeat, echoing across every listening post on Earth and the Moon. It no longer felt like numbers, it felt like a warning drum, counting down to an inevitable encounter. Dr. Celine Ward had not left her station. The fragments of alien text she had decoded replayed in her mind over and over. It is older. Older than who? Older than what? On the second night after the new message, the first sign appeared. It was detected by a deep space telescope stationed far beyond Mars, built to watch distant comets and track potential asteroid impacts. At first, the astronomers thought they had found a new celestial object, a massive dark shape moving through the void, reflecting almost no light. But its movement wasn't natural. It was accelerating. By morning, 5 more objects were detected, each emerging from the dark between stars, each on a direct path toward the inner solar system. Military channels went silent. Civilian observatories were locked out of data streams. Yet rumors still spread. Grainy images leaked online, showing a silhouette against the stars. Massive, jagged, wrong. Celine watched one of the images on a secure screen, her stomach tight. The object looked less like a ship and more like a shard. A fragment of something broken long ago, still sharp enough to cut through space. Colonel Reeves stood beside her. His jaw was tight, his hands clasped behind his back. They're not broadcasting. No attempt at communication. No lights. Just movement. Predators don't announce themselves, Celine whispered. Reeves turned to her, his face grim. Then tell me, Doctor, are we prey? Celine didn't answer. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Pacific, the alien structure continued to stir. Since the last contact, strange vibrations had rippled through the ocean, creating massive currents felt hundreds of kilometers away. Deep-sea drones recorded images of the object opening in places, like petals of some vast metal flower. Inside, glimpses of strange mechanisms flashed briefly, rows of glowing orbs, lines of energy flowing like rivers, walls inscribed with markings that shifted like living script. But before the drones could transmit more, the entire feed went dark again. The vibrations stopped. The ocean fell silent. The object slept once more. Celine reviewed the recordings obsessively. She was convinced the alien construct was connected to the incoming objects. Whether it was a warning system, a weapon, or something else entirely, she didn't know. But it was not coincidence. By the end of the day, the incoming objects had crossed into the outer edge of the solar system. Calculations showed they would arrive near Earth in less than 72 hours. World leaders convened in secret. Defense strategies were debated: orbital defense grids, experimental railguns, high-atmosphere drones. But even the most optimistic projections painted a grim picture. If these things were capable of crossing interstellar space, no human weapon would likely stop them. And then the second sign came. Across the night sky, faint ripples appeared, waves of distortion bending the stars themselves. At first, astronomers believed it to be atmospheric interference. But the effect grew stronger, wider, and stranger. Something was warping space. Celine stood on the observation deck of the lunar post, staring at the shimmering sky. It looked beautiful. Terrifying. She thought of the phrase from the alien transmission again, "Look to the dark between the stars." And then she realized. "They're not coming from where we see," she whispered. "They're coming from where we don't." Reeves frowned. "What does that mean?" "They're using the void. Space between dimensions. A place where light can't reach. That's how they got here so fast. That's why we couldn't see them until now." Reeves said nothing. But his expression told her he understood. That night, the countdown changed again. The numbers continued to fall, but now, faintly beneath them, came something new, a low, resonant hum. Not words. Not language. But hunger. Celine couldn't explain how she knew. She just felt it. The sound made her stomach knot, her chest tighten. It was not random. It was deliberate. Somewhere out there, something ancient was looking back at humanity. And now, it wanted them to know. Far above Earth, an orbital telescope captured the first clear image of one of the objects. It was enormous, larger than any human city, a twisted lattice of black metal that seemed half-built, half-grown. Parts of it glowed faintly, like dying embers. But the strangest thing was its shape. It looked like a predator's jaw. Celine saw the image hours later. She didn't speak for a long time. When she finally did, her voice was almost a whisper. They don't build ships. They build traps. The countdown reached 2 days. 2 days. The world no longer felt like the same place. The air seemed heavier. The sky seemed darker. Even those who knew nothing of the signals sensed something watching, waiting. Dr. Celine Ward had given up trying to sleep. She lived in the lunar listening post, studying the countdown as though sheer willpower might slow it. But nothing could stop the steady pulse, each second bringing whatever was coming closer. The latest deep space scans confirmed it. The objects, 5 in total, were now well inside the solar system, moving at speeds beyond anything human science could explain. They were slowing, adjusting course, not as falling debris, but as hunters selecting where to strike. And then Earth began to feel them. It started with magnetic disturbances. Compass needles spun wildly. Radio signals crackled with strange harmonics. Deep-sea sensors detected faint vibrations coming from nowhere, waves that rose and fell like the heartbeat of some hidden creature. Then came the lights. Across the night sky, vast shimmering curtains of energy appeared, rippling like auroras but brighter, deeper, alive. In the northern hemisphere, people stood in silent awe as green and violet streaks danced across the heavens. But these were not natural. Celine stood on the observation deck, gazing at the spectacle. "They're marking us," she whispered. Colonel Reeves joined her, his face grim. "For what?" She didn't answer. Far below, on Earth, panic began to spread. Governments maintained the official story, unusual solar activity, but no one believed it. Amateur astronomers were already tracking the incoming objects, posting grainy footage online. Conspiracy channels exploded with theories, alien scouts, ancient machines, harbingers of war. But in the quiet halls of power, preparations were underway. At an underground facility in Nevada, technicians powered up the Aegis Array, a network of experimental energy cannons designed for asteroid defense. In orbit, classified military satellites began to reorient their weapons toward the incoming targets. But deep down, even the most confident commanders knew the truth. These weapons had been built for rocks, not predators. Meanwhile, the alien structure beneath the Pacific stirred again. Sensors from nearby naval vessels recorded a massive surge of energy, something ancient awakening. The ocean boiled above the site, waves rising like great black walls before slamming into the sea. And then, a signal pulsed upward, strong enough to be picked up by satellites. Celine was the first to see it. The signal was not a word, not even a phrase. It was a question. 3 simple pulses. Rising. Falling. Rising again. "They're asking," Celine whispered. Reeves frowned. "Asking what?" She hesitated. "If we're ready." Later that night, one of the objects reached the orbit of Neptune. Astronomers expected it to slow, to circle, to observe. It didn't. Instead, it vanished. Not into darkness. Not into hyperspace. It simply folded out of view. Moments later, a bright flash erupted near the orbit of Mars. The object had reappeared, closer, faster, sharper. Celine stared at the playback, her chest tightening. "They're skipping," she murmured. "Jumping through space." Reeves' voice was low. "How close until they can jump here?" Celine didn't answer. She didn't need to. On Earth, strange phenomena grew worse. Shadows lengthened in ways that defied physics. Electronics flickered at random. Animals behaved as though sensing danger from far above. In a remote observatory in Chile, a scientist caught something on camera, a ripple across the stars, like a vast shape passing through the void. For an instant, it seemed to spread across the sky like wings before fading into blackness. The image reached Celine hours later. She studied it silently, her eyes locked on the faint outline. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a structure. It was alive. "They're not all machines," she whispered. "Some of them are something else." Reeves turned to her. "Creatures." Celine nodded slowly. "Hunters." The next day, the countdown reached 36 hours. The alien structure beneath the Pacific erupted with light, golden lines racing across its surface, forming spirals that pulsed faster and faster. The signal changed again. This time, it was not a warning, not a question. It was an invitation. Celine's translation was crude, but the meaning was clear. Enter and live. Stay and die. Reeves stared at her. Enter where? Celine looked toward the deep ocean. Inside the structure. Whatever's coming, it built a shelter for whoever hears the warning. But it can't protect all of us. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Only a few. The countdown reached one day. One day. The countdown pulsed slower now, each beat like the toll of a great bell. Outside the lunar listening post, the stars glimmered cold and sharp, hiding what moved between them. Dr. Celine Ward had not left her console in nearly 24 hours. Every flicker of data, every pulse of alien code, was a thread she clung to. But no matter how hard she searched, the message remained the same. Enter and live. Stay and die. The alien structure beneath the Pacific glowed brighter than ever, visible from satellites orbiting above. Entire sections of its outer shell had opened, forming what looked like vast gateways. The deep-sea water shimmered around it, rippling like heat from an invisible furnace. And the vibrations were growing stronger. "They're waking it up," Celine murmured, staring at the live feed. Colonel Reeves stood beside her, his jaw tight. "For what?" Celine hesitated. "For us. Or what's left of us." That morning, the first alien object entered near-Earth space. It didn't arrive like a ship. It didn't slow like a visitor. It simply unfolded into existence above the dark side of the planet, its vast, jagged shape blocking out a field of stars. Satellites captured fragments of its form, massive, shard-like spines connected by webs of black metal, glowing faintly at the edges. It made no sound. It emitted no light. Yet every radar station on Earth lit up with alarms as the thing drifted across the upper atmosphere like a silent predator circling prey. Within an hour, governments declared martial law in several regions. Emergency shelters filled. Cities darkened their skylines. But there was nowhere to hide, not from something that could move through the dark between stars. In the Pentagon, military leaders debated launching a strike. They had orbital railguns, missile silos, and experimental drones ready. But even the most aggressive voices faltered. If the object could cross interstellar space in days, what chance did human weapons have? Instead, the debate shifted. Not how to fight, but who to save. Celine joined a secure transmission with world leaders. The air was heavy with dread. "The structure beneath the Pacific," one official said. "Can it house our population?" Celine's voice was quiet but firm. "No. It's not big enough. And it's not designed for comfort. It's an ark. A bunker. Maybe a lifeboat." "How many?" a general asked. Celine swallowed hard. "Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. But not millions. And certainly not billions." The silence that followed felt endless. Finally, Colonel Reeves spoke. "Then we choose. Who lives? Who dies?" While leaders argued, the alien presence grew stronger. The skies over Earth shimmered with faint waves of distortion. Electronics glitched. Shadows twisted unnaturally. Even gravity seemed to ripple in certain regions, pulling at objects like invisible tides. Celine studied the signals again, her eyes narrowing. They're probing us. Mapping us. Reeves looked at her. Why? To find weaknesses. No, she whispered. To decide who to take first. That night, the alien structure beneath the Pacific emitted a blinding flash, so bright it pierced the ocean and lit up the clouds above. From space, it looked like a star had ignited beneath the waves. And then it opened fully. Massive rings of light formed around the structure, expanding outward like ripples of energy. The water above churned violently, yet the structure itself remained untouched, as if existing in two realities at once. Celine translated the new pulse of code as quickly as she could. It carried a single message. Time is short. Enter now. Governments made their choice. The selection process was brutal, secretive. Scientists, engineers, medical personnel, those considered vital for rebuilding, were prioritized. High-ranking officials and military leaders secured their places. The rest of humanity was left with silence. Celine hated it. But she also knew the truth. If humanity had any chance at survival, the few who entered the structure had to be the ones who could carry knowledge forward. But as she packed her few belongings, a single thought haunted her. What if the warning wasn't about them at all? What if the Ark wasn't salvation? What if it was a trap? The countdown ticked past 12 hours. Above Earth, the alien object shifted for the first time. Its jagged spines unfolded, opening like the ribs of a predator preparing to strike. And then, faintly, across every channel, in every language, came a whisper. You are seen. The world went silent. The countdown reached 0. The final second pulsed like a dying heartbeat, and then, silence. On the moon, Dr. Celine Ward stood motionless at her console. She had waited for this moment with dread, counting each passing hour, each minute, each breath. Now it had come, and nothing happened. Not at first. Then the sky tore open. Above Earth, reality seemed to bend. Stars twisted into streaks. Clouds coiled into spirals. And from the void between light and shadow, the hunters emerged. The first object unfolded like black glass breaking apart, revealing a shape that was neither ship nor creature but something in between, a skeletal predator of metal and bone, its jagged edges glowing faintly with alien fire. Behind it came 4 more, each different, each vast, each wrong. They drifted in silence, circling Earth like vultures around a dying beast. On the surface, panic consumed cities. Sirens wailed. Skies burned with strange light. In some places, shadows grew unnaturally long, stretching across streets as though reaching for the living. In others, gravity itself rippled, lifting vehicles into the air before dropping them like toys. The air carried a hum now, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate inside bone rather than ear. It was not random. It was communication. And though humanity could not understand the words, they could feel the meaning. Fear. Hunger. Claim. Beneath the Pacific, the alien structure blazed with golden light. Its massive rings of energy pulsed faster, louder, like the beat of some ancient engine. Submarines and naval ships hovered at a distance, unable, or unwilling, to approach closer. From within the structure, faint pathways of light formed, reaching upward like a beacon to the sky. Celine translated the last pulse of alien code. Enter now. No more after. Colonel Reeves stood beside her, his voice low. Then this is it. Celine didn't reply. She only watched the golden light flicker, her stomach heavy with doubt. What if the structure wasn't salvation? What if it was just the first mouth? But there was no time to question. Across the world, aircraft carried the chosen few, scientists, engineers, doctors, leaders, to the ocean site. Submersible transports descended into the deep, following the glowing paths into the alien construct. Celine boarded the last one. The craft shuddered as it sank, pressure groaning against its reinforced hull. Outside, the The water burned with shifting golden patterns, like liquid fire guiding them down. Then, suddenly, the darkness opened into light. The alien structure was vast beyond comprehension, a cathedral of metal and crystal, its walls inscribed with symbols that moved like living script. Pathways of light stretched into impossible distances, connecting chambers that seemed to fold in and out of reality. It did not feel like a ship. It felt like a door. Inside, gravity shifted. Air formed where there should have been none. The submersible touched down in a massive chamber, where the chosen passengers stepped onto a floor of translucent glass that pulsed faintly beneath their feet. Celine gazed around, awestruck and afraid. The walls glowed softly, displaying patterns she could almost read. Fragments of the same message repeated, pulsing like a heartbeat. Safe. Wait. Hold. But beneath the light, she sensed something else. A hum that carried not reassurance, but warning. Above Earth, the alien predators moved. One descended toward the atmosphere, its jagged spines unfolding like the wings of a vast, skeletal bird. Lightning arced across its body, splitting clouds and igniting fires below. Another drifted toward the moon, its shadow swallowing craters like black fog. And then, they began to feed. Not on cities. Not on people. On energy. Satellites went dark. Power grids failed. Entire regions fell into shadow. The hunters drank not blood, but life, the heartbeat of the planet itself. Inside the structure, Celine felt the floor vibrate. A low tone reverberated through the walls, rising, until the symbols blazed like fire. The door was closing. Is it protecting us? Reeves asked, voice tight. Celine didn't answer. She was staring at a section of wall where new script appeared, glowing faintly. It was not alien. It was human. Letters formed slowly, shakily, as though written by an unseen hand. We were like you. Celine froze. The script shifted again. We hid here, too. Her breath caught. Oh no. The lights dimmed. The floor shuddered. Outside, the alien predators turned, not toward cities, not toward the oceans, but toward the structure. Celine understood too late. The Ark wasn't a lifeboat. It was bait. The hunters descended in unison, surrounding the glowing construct. Their bodies twisted, their spines flaring like blades. Beams of dark energy lanced outward, striking the ocean, splitting waves like glass. Inside, Celine gripped the console, trying to read the last words forming on the walls. We ran. We hid. We waited. They always found us. The chamber shook violently. Lights flared. Somewhere deep inside the structure, a low hum rose to a scream. And then, silence. When light returned, Earth was gone. Celine opened her eyes to find herself standing in a vast, dark void. The chamber, the ocean, the planet, all had vanished. Only the chosen remained, scattered across a platform of black glass beneath an endless night. Above, something moved. Not stars. Not ships. Something older. Larger. Watching. A final message burned into the glass beneath her feet. This is not the end. Only the hunt. Celine looked up, heart pounding, as the darkness above began to open like an eye. The hunters had only just begun.